Tang Wei was once hailed as one of the most promising actresses to come out of China, her performance in Lust, Caution making waves internationally. But just as her star was rising, she suddenly found herself blacklisted and shunned by the very industry she sought to conquer. What really happened to Tang Wei, and why did Hollywood turn its back on her? In today's video, we'll unravel the truth behind her sudden downfall and her incredible journey of resilience and redemption. If you enjoy deep dives into the untold stories of the entertainment industry, make sure to subscribe for more. Tang Wei's ascent to stardom was nothing short of spectacular. Born on October 7, 1979, and raised in China, her early years were marked by a deep passion for the arts. She was drawn to acting from a young age, enrolling at the prestigious Central Academy of Drama in Beijing. Her talent was undeniable, but like many young actors, her journey was fraught with the usual struggles of auditions, minor roles, and a relentless pursuit of something bigger. It was that hunger for artistic excellence that eventually brought her to the attention of one of the most celebrated directors in the world. In 2007, Tang Wei was cast in Ang Lee's provocative espionage drama, Lust, Caution. The film, adapted from Eileen Chang's short story, was a complex and emotionally charged narrative set in Japanese-occupied Shanghai during World War II. Tang Wei played the role of Wang Jiaji, a young woman who becomes entangled in a high-stakes plot to seduce and assassinate a powerful collaborator. It was her first major role, and one that demanded immense emotional depth, vulnerability, and rawness. What truly set her performance apart was her ability to convey the psychological struggle of her character, a woman torn between duty and desire. But it was also the film's explicit scenes that drew the most attention. Ang Lee, known for his meticulous direction and storytelling, pushed boundaries by portraying the intimate relationship between Tang Wei's character and the man she was meant to destroy with an unflinching intensity. The scenes were more than just graphic. They were emotionally charged, intended to show the complex dynamics of power, betrayal, and human connection. It was a daring choice that made the film stand out, but also made it controversial. The movie received critical acclaim internationally. Tang Wei's performance was praised for its bravery and nuance. Reviewers marveled at her ability to bring a painful, conflicted character to life with such sophistication. Industry insiders predicted a bright future for her, one that would likely extend far beyond Chinese cinema. The film itself went on to win the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, cementing Ang Lee's reputation as a master filmmaker. For Tang Wei, it seemed like the perfect launchpad for global recognition. But what had the potential to be her big break turned into a nightmare? In China, the reception was vastly different. The explicit nature of the scenes between Tang Wei and her co-star Tony Leung sparked outrage among conservative audiences. More importantly, it drew the ire of Chinese authorities, who deemed the content inappropriate and harmful to social morals. It wasn't just that the film was censored in mainland China. Tang Wei herself became the focal point of a far-reaching backlash. The Chinese government imposed an unofficial ban on Tang Wei, effectively blacklisting her from participating in major productions within the country. Advertisements she had previously filmed were pulled from television. Her appearances in the media became scarce, and her career seemed to stall just as it was taking off. For a young actress who had just delivered one of the most talked about performances of the year, the abruptness of it all was devastating. The ban wasn't just about the explicit scenes. From the government's perspective, her participation in a film that portrayed a sexually liberated and morally ambiguous character was unacceptable. The message was clear. Artistic freedom had its limits, especially when it clashed with cultural and political expectations. The decision left Tang Wei in a precarious position. As an artist, she had proven herself capable of delivering extraordinary work. But the machinery of censorship was powerful, and rebuilding her career would prove to be a daunting task. What was especially crushing about the situation was that the controversy surrounding her role in Lust, Caution, overshadowed her talent. In Hollywood, actors who take risks are often celebrated, their careers bolstered by the willingness to push boundaries. But in China, where the government's approval is essential for continued success, her daring performance was seen as a transgression, a violation of unspoken rules about what was considered acceptable on screen. For Tang Wei, the fallout was not just a professional setback, but a personal one as well. Her reputation had been tainted, not by scandal in the traditional sense, but by an artistic choice that was seen as stepping over the line. Yet, amid the turmoil, her resolve remained strong. She would eventually find her way back to the screen, but the scars left by the controversy would continue to follow her, even as her journey took unexpected turns. Despite the fallout from lust, caution, Tang Wei's talent was undeniable, and Hollywood couldn't help but take notice. Her performance had been praised by critics worldwide, and her name was suddenly circulating among industry insiders. For a brief moment, it seemed like the controversy that had rattled her career in China might actually open doors for her abroad. The Western film industry, always on the hunt for fresh talent, was intrigued by the actress whose bravery and skill had stunned audiences. Producers and directors saw potential in Tang Wei, not only because of her captivating performance, but also because of her ability to navigate the emotional complexities of a character. Meetings were scheduled, scripts were sent her way, and whispers of upcoming collaborations grew louder. Her poised, elegant demeanor and striking screen presence made her a prime candidate for crossover success. Hollywood had long been trying to build stronger bridges with the Chinese market, and Tang Wei seemed like the ideal actress to help make that connection. But as promising as those early conversations were, they rarely amounted to anything concrete. Time and again, Tang Wei's name would be brought up for a project, only for the discussions to fall apart before they could go anywhere. The reasons given were vague, but the pattern was clear. There was something about working with Tang Wei that made Hollywood hesitate, and the problem went far beyond any concerns about language barriers or cultural differences. Behind the scenes, there was a quiet but powerful force shaping these decisions. Hollywood was becoming increasingly aware of China's importance as a financial powerhouse. Its massive box office potential had grown too lucrative to ignore, and the last thing studios wanted was to jeopardize their access to that market. Movies that performed well in China could make or break a film's profitability, and no studio was willing to take unnecessary risks. Tang Wei's connection to lust, caution, had branded her as a problematic figure, not because of her actions, but because of the government's harsh reaction to her performance. For Hollywood, collaborating with her could potentially be seen as a defiance of China's disapproval. Some projects that initially showed enthusiasm for her involvement quietly backed away once investors expressed concerns about the potential backlash. It wasn't always blatant, but the hesitancy was there. It didn't help that some of the early efforts to include her in Hollywood productions were met with caution. Instead of fully embracing her talent, there were attempts to mold her into what the industry thought a Chinese actress should be. Rather than letting her showcase the emotional depth she had demonstrated in Lust, Caution, some casting directors wanted her to fit into simplified, one-dimensional roles. Tang Wei was well aware of this, and it only added to her frustration. She had already proven what she was capable of, but it seemed like the very thing that made her exceptional was being used against her. To complicate matters further, Hollywood itself was undergoing changes. Studios were increasingly reliant on the Chinese market for financial success, which meant playing by China's rules. Films were being carefully tailored to appeal to Chinese audiences, with scripts altered, scenes cut, and entire plots adjusted to ensure government approval. Casting decisions were often influenced by what would be most marketable in China, which sometimes meant excluding actors who had been blacklisted or criticized by the authorities. Tang Wei's association with controversy made her a liability, at least in the eyes of those who were most concerned with profits. The same industry that had once admired her boldness now seemed reluctant to take a chance on her. It wasn't as if she was officially banned from Hollywood, but there was a quiet understanding that working with her could complicate things. And in a business where risk and reward were constantly being measured, many decided it was simply easier to avoid her altogether. The worst part of it all was that much of this was happening behind closed doors. Tang Wei was left guessing as to why so many promising opportunities slipped away before they even started. When she did hear from agents or producers, their explanations were polite but non-committal. It was always about timing, creative differences, or other projects taking priority. Yet the pattern was too consistent to ignore. Despite her obvious talent and the potential to build a successful career in the West, Tang Wei found herself on the outside looking in. Hollywood's love for new talent was strong, but its desire to protect its relationship with China was stronger. The painful irony was that her extraordinary performance, the very thing that had caught Hollywood's attention, was also the thing that kept her at arm's length. While Tang Wei tried to move forward and find her place in the international film landscape, it was becoming increasingly clear that Hollywood was not ready to embrace her on her own terms. The shadow of lust, caution continued to loom large, not just over her career, but over the way an entire industry made its decisions. And as the years went by, the reality of what she was up against became impossible to deny. For a while, it seemed like Tang Wei's career might never recover from the damage inflicted by the backlash surrounding lust, caution. But her determination was stronger than the forces trying to keep her down. When Hollywood remained cold and unwelcoming, she turned her attention back to the one place that had once embraced her talent: Chinese language cinema. The journey back was not easy, but it was one she approached with the same passion and dedication that had propelled her into the spotlight in the first place. Tang Wei spent the next few years rebuilding her reputation from the ground up. Instead of pursuing Hollywood dreams that never seemed to materialize, she focused on projects that allowed her to showcase her skills without compromise. Her persistence paid off. In 2013, she starred in Finding Mr. Right, a romantic comedy that became a massive box office success in China. Audiences adored her portrayal of Jia, a spoiled woman who discovers strength and humility through unexpected love and personal growth. The film's success was a turning point for Tang Wei, proving that she could still captivate audiences despite the stigma attached to her name. Her comeback wasn't just about finding commercial success. Tang Wei sought out roles that challenged her as an actress. She continued to work with respected directors and took on complex characters that allowed her to prove her versatility. Films like The Golden Era showcased her ability to portray emotional depth and resilience, further solidifying her status as one of China's most talented actresses. Critics praised her performances, acknowledging that her skills had only grown sharper with time. What could have been the end of her career had instead become a powerful comeback story. During this period, the global film landscape was evolving. Hollywood's obsession with pleasing the Chinese market grew stronger, but there was also a rising interest in stories told from diverse perspectives. Independent filmmakers and international collaborations began to push boundaries, challenging the old ways of doing things. It was in this shifting environment that Tang Wei managed to carve out a place for herself, slowly but surely. While she was no longer the fresh face Hollywood had once courted, her name carried a different kind of weight now, a reputation built on resilience, artistry, and perseverance. Still, the question of whether Hollywood would ever fully embrace Tang Wei remained. She made occasional appearances in international productions, but most of her acclaim continued to come from projects that existed outside the mainstream American film industry. To some extent, that was fine with her. Tang Wei had come to realize that artistic fulfillment didn't always have to come from Hollywood's validation. She was working on her own terms, choosing roles that resonated with her, rather than those designed to fit someone else's idea of marketability. There were, however, signs that the industry's perception of her was changing. Hollywood was becoming more open to foreign talent and international collaborations. Streaming platforms with global audiences were breaking down some of the traditional barriers, making it possible for talented actors from around the world to find success without relying entirely on theatrical releases. Tang Wei's reputation as a dedicated, high-caliber performer was beginning to attract interest again, but this time on terms that felt less compromising. Despite the opportunities that were slowly emerging, Tang Wei remained cautious. She knew better than to pin her hopes on Hollywood's approval. Instead, she focused on continuing to deliver exceptional performances wherever she could. Her journey was no longer about proving herself to an industry that had once rejected her, but about staying true to her own creative vision. As the years went by, Tang Wei's story became one of artistic triumph rather than victimhood. Her decision to focus on projects that allowed her to explore her craft rather than chase superficial success paid off. Younger generations of filmmakers and actors in China admired her perseverance and the way she had handled her setbacks with grace. Hollywood itself was starting to question some of the decisions made in its pursuit of global dominance. There was a growing awareness that sacrificing artistry for profit came with its own costs. The very thing that had kept Tang Wei at a distance was gradually becoming less of a barrier as the industry grappled with its own contradictions. Today, Tang Wei's legacy is far more than the scandal that once threatened to derail her career. She's respected as an actress who never compromised her integrity for the sake of fame. While she may never have achieved the level of Hollywood superstardom that once seemed possible, her impact has been undeniable. Her story is one of resilience, creativity, and a refusal to be defined by anyone else's expectations. In the end, Tang Wei's career was not destroyed by the Hollywood ban, real or imagined. Instead, it was transformed by it, shaped into something stronger and more meaningful. And as the industry continues to change, her journey stands as both a cautionary tale and an inspiring testament to the power of perseverance. Tang Wei's story is more than just a cautionary tale about the power of politics and censorship. It's a testament to the resilience of an artist who refused to be silenced or defined by controversy. Her journey proves that true talent and dedication can triumph even in the face of enormous obstacles. Hollywood may have shut its doors, but Tang Wei carved her own path to success. What do you think of her incredible journey? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating stories from the world of cinema.